Content of this meeting is being sent to a third party.
All right.
Search control F1. The host has started broadcasting them. Zoom meeting. To move to an item.
Phone call. +1 7
One
2
streaming
0
service.
9 8 1.
Yes. Okay. Welcome to Innovation FM. And this is Johnnie J and Alan C's in the house and Hey Joe's in the house. And we have a very special guest tonight. We have Robert E. Lee in the house. And he has a very interesting organization, which I love that the name of it. It's like, you don't look blind. And we're going to find out more about this organization and other organizations that he knows about for the blind community. And it's going to enlighten you in such a way that you're going to say, man, I didn't know there was all these organizations. I want to thank our sponsors, Christian Brothers Moving Company, Chinook, and then there's an organization, we're going to go to it Thursday, and I don't know, I'm not going to say the name until we get the check. So there's so many things going on. So I'm getting choked up here. Welcome to the show, Robert E. Lee.
Hi there.
Now, is that your handle? Or is it really Robert E. Lee?
My name is Robert E. Lee II. I was named after my son. So, well, at least that's what my dad said. So.
Okay. That'll work. So tell it. Okay, let's see, this name of the organization. Tell us a little bit more about like what gave you that aha moment. We said, this is the name.
Okay, so I was diagnosed with retinitis pigmentosa when I was 14 years old back in 1980. At 13, whatever it was. In any case, we found a peer-to-peer support group that was being operated by the RP Foundation at the time here in Denver. And so here I am, some young kid. My mom is taking me to this meeting, and it's surrounded by a table of, a whole bunch of old people, gray hair and white canes. And they showed me the path that my degenerative vision loss was going to be taking me down. And 45 years later, I'm the gray-haired old guy sitting around the table with my white cane with my wife and my sister, Amy, and we host that same peer-to-peer support group now.
Wow. But how did the name come about?
So when the Foundation Fighting Blindness, the RP Foundation rebranded themselves Foundation Fighting Blindness.
Right.
And back in 2022, we were hosting virtual and in-person support groups for them. And they basically told us that, our focus is fundraising, and we really don't want to redirect any of our resources and efforts towards support. And I respect that of the Foundation Fighting Blindness, because
Absolutely.
They are doing amazing work. I mean, I just saw emails right here at the end of October, the beginning of November, about 3 or 4 different actual human trials for possible cures and treatments for folks with degenerative vision loss.
Absolutely.
So, they're doing amazing work, and I respect that. But me, as someone who was affected by it, I need life skills. I need resources. I need to know how to live with this while we wait for doctors to catch up with science and to help us, right? To give us something so that we can actually operate in the visual world as visual people. But in the meantime, with degenerative vision loss, they said, thanks, but we don't need you. So right in the beginning of January 2023, we formed our group as You Don't Look Blind. We kept tossing names out, and everything was just depressing or clinical, and it made everybody smile that we talked to. And it's like, I get that all the time. And so that's what we did. And we created a group on Facebook. We were reaching people across the country. Our first meeting that we had socially, we had a virtual Zoom meeting in January 2023. We had a lady come on from New York City and said, I'm in total shock and pain and awe, and I'm at loss. I could see at a Thanksgiving party. I went to a Christmas party, and I couldn't see the people's faces around a table. And she says, and I burst into tears. And I said, wow, that's amazing. So you're on Facebook and you found us. She says, no, I'm not on Facebook. I said, oh, my boyfriend gave me this link. Oh, so he's on Facebook. No, he's not on Facebook. Somebody else, somebody he knows says, oh, hey, I just heard about this group. Send him the link. So it was like this amazing connection. She found us. While we're in that room, another gentleman in Long Island says, I can help you. I can help get you connected with services in your local area. And we wouldn't have that if we didn't have peer-to-peer support.
Good.
I've got miracle stories like that over the last 45 years. And that's why I'm so passionate about peer-to-peer support, sharing our stories, sharing our resources, and meeting Johnnie J and hearing what he's doing with Envision. And again, I didn't know this existed as well. We just don't know what we don't know.
Yeah, and it's a small world out there where it's like we're doing stuff, but I mean, like, probably years ago before the internet and all this stuff came about, we wouldn't have never known about each other, even if we just poked around and say, okay, what's out there?
Right.
And it's like this made it so much quicker to know that, hey, we're not alone.
We're not alone. That is the best.
Yeah.
That is one of the biggest ones. That's a huge story that we hear when doctors give these diagnoses to folks. It says, yeah, you've got problems. Yep, you have an inherited retinal disease. You have this diagnosis. Yep, you're going blind. Have a nice day. See you in a year. And maybe they'll give them connections to social services or maybe to something. Now they're getting better about hooking them up with social workers. But pretty much they just sent them out the door. And so we had a gentleman in Fort Collins. He says, my wife pushed me to go to the doctor. We finally go. I realized that my vision is a whole lot worse than I thought it was. And they connected me to a peer-to-peer support group that they were running out of Fort Collins. And he walked away from that meeting going, for something that was so rare, something I was told was, extremely rare and probably only, one in 100,000 people have it or whatever. He's like, I walked away from meeting a room full of people that knew exactly what I was going through, and I wasn't alone.
I think that's
Yeah.
really important because as the blind community, we're a relatively small demographic of society when you think about things. Also, however, when you think about things as well, there is a 70% unemployment rate within the blind, low vision community.
Exactly.
And so it's really hard. You've got all these different organizations, and sometimes there's some rivalry going on. Sometimes maybe there's not maybe so much rivalry, but there's a lot of folks. Go ahead.
I apologize. I apologize, Al. Yeah, they have their own agendas.
Yes.
The alphabet soup of blind organizations.
Yes, exactly.
We talk about the NFB, the AFB, the ACB, the MAB, the LB, what is it? LVB. There was a group out there, preventblindness.org. Been around for more than 100 years.
More than 100 years. Yeah.
Yeah, you go to the Foundation Fighting Blindness and you want support, that's where they refer you to now. And it was like, until I saw that link at the FFB, I've been living as somebody with losing my vision. I'd never heard of Prevent Blindness. It was like, wait a minute, how can I have been losing my vision for 30 something years and not know about Prevent Blindness?
But yet there is, there is hope. There is the Neuralink with Elon Musk. Clinical trials seem promising.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
I'm not convinced with Neuralink, and I have seen other medical research about the retina implants. There was one of those that had come out. It was 64K pixels. It wasn't even megabytes. It was 64K. And it was restoring vision in people's eyes. It gave them light perception. Yeah, that was the Argus 3. And so there are technology is coming up.
Yeah.
Talking about stem cells, right? This
Yeah.
major thing. They're trying to do agnostic treatments where they're talking about, in particular for folks with retinal degenerative diseases, that try to reactivate different cells in the back of the eye.
Yeah,
Make
literally
them
at the cellular level, take care
Yeah,
of
to
it.
make those things photoreceptors because the rods and cones are gone,
Yeah,
right? So I have hope. I certainly I'm not giving up, but I'm not holding my breath either, right?
that's right. That's right. We still have to work. We still have to live. We still have
Yeah.
to make our way.
At this point in time, it's you know oh, it's 5 to 10 years away, 5 to 10 years away, and it's like, I'm at the end of my life of my vision. I have light perception in one eye basically, and the other one's pretty much gone. So when it comes to medical research, I don't even qualify for clinical studies anymore because they call me monocular, right? You got to have two good eyes for them to test on. So
Monoculars.
That's crazy.
yeah. And it's like, yeah, but I've only got one bad eye to tell, it's like, well, yeah, but we don't have anything to compare against, and we don't want to damage what you do have. And it's like, well, I'm willing to risk it. They're like, well, we're not. Ethically, we're not. And I can respect that from their
I
point
can
of view.
respect that, I'm sure, but
But
still.
when I was in LA, I mean, and the doctor I have for like years, he's level-headed, and he made one promise when I met him when I was 17. He says, whatever I do, you will not lose your eye like this. The first guy I met, he was teaching himself how to do corneal transplant. And he
Right.
said, you never want to be the first 100. And I learned that the hard way.
Sure.
So, but I went to LA, and this guy, before he came in the room, he was talking about his next Ferrari, and the girlfriend he was going to take out with it. And so when he walked in the door, on his mind was like, how can I make money and perhaps do an experimental operation on you?
Right.
You have sight for 2 years, and then you'll lose the whole eye.
Right.
So it was almost like
back in the 90 or 2000s, I was teaching myself how to repair cell phones. You know how many cell phones I lost?
So these guys, I don't know. I mean, you got to have you have to have gut feeling, good gut feelings, and then I guess when I don't know if you went to doctor's office with your parents, right? And then my mother was always saying, don't ask questions because the doctor knows everything. And I said, wait a minute, this is me they're cutting on. I'm going to ask some questions.
Right. No, you
Right.
have to be an advocate. You have to. I'm on social media, and I look at people and they talk about their cataract surgeries. Oh, the doctor says they don't want to operate because my cataract's not right. And my surgeon for my cataract surgery says, no, they're not right, but I'm willing to do it for you because I understand the impact with the limited vision you have that this unripe cataract has on your life and what that impact is. And I said, what are the extra risks? She says, it's more work for me as a surgeon, but the risks are the same. And so I get on the internet and these people are like, oh, my doctor doesn't want to do it because it's not ripe yet. It's like, what? You're not totally blind, so they don't want to work on your eyes? And and like, find a different surgeon. That's been advice, right? It's like if you're experiencing a problem with your eyes that can be fixed, and a surgeon says, well, yeah, it can be, but I'm not yet. Never mind. I don't trust your skills. I don't want it.
I've never had cataracts. Are they painful? I understand.
No, cataracts are completely painless. It's behind your cornea is a lens that actually is holding in the vitreous fluid in your eyeball, and that lens becomes aged and
like skin cells.
It literally can become it's like honey getting old, and it solidifies. And so what's happening with that cataract lens is it's starting to lose its vitality, and it becomes cracked and crusty. And so they reach in through your eye, and they rip it out and put in a plastic one. And they've been doing it since the 60s.
Sure.
It's nowadays that it used to be you'd lay in bed and put sandbags around your head and not move for a week. Nowadays it's an outpatient surgery.
Yeah,
It's
outpatient
they'll do both
surgery.
eyes at the same time.
Sure.
10 minutes an eye, if that long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what they want, is they want this as a surgeon. They want this, like, the factory floor, right? That production line. We just want you to come in. We want to make this as easy and as quick as possible for me, surgeon, so I can get as many surgeries done in a day.
Yeah.
I mean, go ahead.
They don't even have to put you all the way to sleep, because I have videotapes of operation, and man, they really jerk the eye around when they're.
I have a videotape of my surgery back in 1998, 1999, and no, they weren't jerking my eye around. It was pretty well steady because they're doing microsurgery. It was definitely an interesting one of watching scalpels come in underneath your cornea.
Yes.
It's definitely interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was quick, and no, it was just a local. They did not put me all the way under.
Right.
They give local anesthesia to the eye, and away you go. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, it's cool too.
It is very, very cool. But so, back to You Don't Look Blind and the peer-to-peer support stuff it is so interesting as we go through the blind community, and primarily because of our degenerative diseases, we're seeing people that are newly blind, folks that are newly diagnosed, and it can be young folks. And it can be a lot of older folks that are, up in 50s plus, that are losing their vision to macular degeneration. These guys that end up getting fully blinded like overnight, they soldiers, right? They end up one of that alphabet soup of those blind organizations, because all of a sudden they're having to go from vision to no vision overnight. And there is no transition. There is no, come to terms with this. It's, I have to learn to deal with this right now, or I'm just going to be at home sitting around doing nothing. Right. And I agree. It's interesting how the degenerative vision loss is a different path as people they live their lives of denial. And then some of them finally get to a point like, well, maybe I should do some type of research, and maybe they'll get on social media and they'll start digging, and they're working on a healthy path towards acceptance, right? Because degenerative vision loss is a huge grief loss.
Let's explore that denial, because my denial was in Denver. I could walk around, not use my cane, maybe bump into stuff a little bit, but nobody really thought. Or if I met someone new, and I came over the house and I tripped over a step, and they said, "Oh, you must have started drinking before you got here, right?" So they thought it was like alcohol-induced tripping over and bumping into stuff, right? Because when you're a teenager, that's what they think.
Yeah, absolutely.
So then I went to California, and it became more dangerous, because out there people are so brain dead, they might shoot you if you bump into them and you don't have a cane or stick to say that you're visually impaired. So then that's when I started using my cane for the first time, because it was more dangerous out there not to have my cane. And so that's a different situation. Then I have a friend that's he's losing a little bit of his hearing, but he will pretend that he heard you, but he didn't hear you. And he's still in denial about he's more in denial about his hearing loss than his sighted loss.
Right.
And that's kind of frustrating, because if he just put on his hearing aid and turn him up, then we can have a conversation other than me yelling or him. Or remember that? What was that cartoon? Mr. Magoo.
Right. Yes.
It becomes like that. And it's like, it's really frustrating. And it's almost like it separated our friendship, because I just can't be yelling all the time when he could just turn up his hearing aid.
Right.
So
and the folks living in denial.
Yes.
In our in our support groups, right? And when our conversations with other folks, I try not to tell other people's stories, but because
Oh,
we're here,
yeah.
I'm going to share some stories that we normally do.
All right.
So I spoke with, I got a call from somebody that said, hey, there's this guy, he's interested in the support groups, give him a call. Call him up. He's an ex-Marine, he's in his late 70s, and
Mm.
he's interested in technology. He wants to wear a piece of technology that he heard about, that he can wear on his waistband, and it would inform him of objects in front of him.
Mm.
And because I'm doing fine and I don't need a white cane, I'm good. I
Oh,
don't,
man.
right?
Okay.
You know, yes, I don't have any peripheral vision, but I'm doing okay and I'm doing just fine. I don't need that stupid white stick, right? And he said, but I want this piece of technology. It's only $500. Well, I go to find out it's only available in Italy and it's really not available yet. So I guess I can't buy that. And I says, wow, that's really frustrating. I says, you know, you sound like you're doing really, really well. I'd love you to come to our support group so that you can share your stories of success with our community. And he goes, I don't think I want to be there. I says, well, how about your wife? Because she's been living with you for 50 years. You know, how about her coming on and talking with us and how it is to be a spouse of somebody dealing with someone with vision loss? Well, I'll ask her, but I don't know. And I says, you know, I do want to mention to you that I do know of some technology that works really well to inform you of your environment around you. And it actually identifies to other people that you're struggling with a vision problem as well. Right. And he goes, wow, that sounds interesting. What is it? And I said, well, it's only been around for about, I don't know, 3, 4, 5,000 years. It's a white stick, you know.
Yes.
Okay, click. And we ended the conversation there. So, you know, too proud to wear a white cane. Right? Too proud. Just doesn't want to deal with it. The stigma behind it.
Yeah.
We have women that are very much opposed to it because it's going to make them a victim. And we talked about that in our group.
Mm.
That, you know, as a guy, as a blind guy, as somebody who grew up, you know, as a white male in our society, I've never had the problem or the issues as I've walked around towns where I'm feeling, you know, intimidated and feeling persecuted, you know, being followed and, you know, being tracked, right? That has not been my journey.
Right.
But I listened to women. I was in a room with 5 women, and all 5 of them started telling me the stories of how they were indoctrinated since childhood to be aware of your surroundings, be aware of the people, be aware of who's following you, you know, what you need to do to protect yourself. All 5 of these women, and they were all different lifestyles, different backgrounds, different places they grew up, all of them. And it was like, this was such a shared sense of how do I want to say this? Not just danger, but this
Vulnerability.
this shared sense of this is our society norms.
Right.
That's what shocked me. And that was, you know, this was just like a year ago that this happened. And it was this age group from 35 to 75, all 5 of them.
Right.
All had the same shared experience of men are always looking at you as a sexual object and you are always at risk. And that's,
You know, this is a similar spirit. I went to this meeting with a bunch of musicians. It was mostly guys, and this lady was one of the speakers. And then she said that when she goes in the recording studio, if there's 5 guys, she says there's 5 ways that they could kill her. And I'm thinking like, kill?
Wow.
You're there for music.
Whoa.
What do you mean kill? And it's like,
right.
and I didn't even think that mindset. I can't think of a situation if I go in and there's 5 women, I'm thinking 5 ways these women can kill me or something like that. That concept is just not in my head. I'm kind of thinking like, how could a concept like that be a part of my reality like it is to this lady?
Right.
Yeah.
And that is one of these eye-opening you know, it's embedded in our society in a way that we just don't think of it. And this is the idea of less than, right, that we talk about in the disability community of
Sure.
well, if we would bother to be inclusive from the very beginning, if you think about design, if we think about inclusion, we think about making things work from the very beginning instead of having to adapt, modify, and retrofit as an afterthought, then maybe we wouldn't, you would, as society, again, you society would not make us, the disability society segment of the population, feel like a burden and make us feel less than, right? And that's
Yeah, I look at, yeah, I mean, I understand because this is something that we look at all the time, especially with a 70% unemployment rate.
absolutely
Sometimes feels like a 90% unemployment rate. I would submit that that 70% is a little padded, you know, because it never changes. Never
it
goes
doesn't
up,
seem to, yeah.
never goes down, never goes up, you know, and the bottom line is the blind are uh, as well as everybody else, especially the folks that are getting older that depend on Social Security, boy, they're in a real pickle. We're in a real pickle. So,
Right.
you know, projects that you've started, um, little ways that help people out are super important. I mean, to give people hope that there's still uh, some stuff out there that that we as the blind community are involved with, you know, still trying to make our community better. And
Yeah, I want to talk about this one. You do on Tuesday nights, like once a month, you do five hours. And I thought I said 5 hours. I mean, I thought our shows were long, but
yeah.
5 hours is like what kind of mindset do you have to get in to do that? Because it was so interesting. I thought, oh, I'm gonna get bored after the first like 30 minutes. And I was like, with each story that came in, each person that came in and talked, it was like
Time
I was
flies.
getting so much information that
Yeah.
I said, man, where's my note taker here?
Right.
So
And then you got the email that Jamie, my wife, put together with all of the notes of what we talked about.
I
yeah,
looked at your Facebook group here. It's really, um, really well put together. Easy to find. Go ahead and if you want,
Well, I believe it's facebook.com/group/you don't look blind.
yep. That's basically how I found it. So, yeah, folks in the Intervision FM universe, check that out.
The news, the exciting news is that we are working on our own domain, and
Right.
hopefully by the end of the year we will have news that instead of having our email address is you don't look blind at Gmail. Eventually, we're going to have a you don't look blind.com address, and so
Right.
we're working towards that. Please don't go visit it yet.
Right.
yeah.
But it is something that we are progressing towards, that we're going to invest our time and energy into, because as Johnny said, so what we're doing right now as a group is that we do host in-person meetings because the pandemic is over and we can. It's always a struggle to find where can we have a venue. So we found a place, we have in-person meetings, and then once a month, we're hosting these open house. And, it's basically, come on, guys, we've opened the doors, come on in, visit, sit down, come when you can, leave when you want. And we host it for 5 hours on the third Tuesday of every month from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. Mountain Time.
Now the
And
concept of that, did you start like with the hour and they said that wasn't enough? How did it eventually get up to like
how did we get it? How did we go up to 5 hours?
Can I answer that?
Please, come on,
yeah.
come on in.
Okay.
We have a lot of talkers in our group. A lot of talkers. We already knew from the in-person group that couple hours really wasn't enough because people would end
Absolutely.
up a lot chatting. But it really became 5 hours because We wanted to cover the entire United States, all the time zones,
Oh,
so that
okay.
could come
Wow.
convenient and just check in and speak their piece and talk to whoever's there.
Not
And
just a
it's-
support group then, but a support group with information attached within it.
Yeah,
Well, and so the idea of what is peer-to-peer support, and it
Yeah.
means something different to a lot of folks. They're like,
That's
oh,
right.
that's counseling. That's a bunch of people sitting around crying and whining about their situation. And the answer is that that's not true. Our peer-to-peer support is, how has your month been? What's going on in your life? What are your latest challenges? Well, I'm newly diagnosed. I don't know what to expect, right? I don't know what I don't know. Okay, well, we can talk about resources. We try not to, or, as we've been doing this over the years, it's like, okay, we're not going to tell you what to do. We're going to say, these are things that we've done. As it says, hey, I'm experiencing this challenge, right? Some guy was trying to get our conversation going. He says, I struggle to put peanut butter on my bread. And that started like a 45-minute conversation with everybody throwing in their tips and tricks on in the kitchen on what we do. And he's like, I meant it as a joke, guys. It really, so,
We got, Go
but
ahead.
it's everybody sharing these stories. And so we literally have folks from the Bahamas all the way to California. We've had folks from France join our support group. We've got folks from Canada all the way down to the tip of Texas. But it's English based, right? That's the primary language we're speaking, and we share our stories, our successes, and our challenges and our obstacles, and you walk away from that going, everybody said, been there, done that, got the t-shirt, right? It's like, my experience is not unique. Your diagnosis, your journey, your vision is unique. Your uprising, your life is your own. But the challenges, the struggles, as somebody with low vision, guess what? You're not the only one. It's been going on for a long time. And here's somebody who's using an iPhone, here's somebody using Android, here's somebody choosing no technology whatsoever.
Right.
Right. And that's the stories that you then get to listen to, help you get over. Denial is one of those first ones you were saying, Johnny. And if they're in the room, they're working past denial, right? That's a huge step because they've reached out. And so they're on the path towards acceptance. They know whatever they're doing is not working. And I need to make something. I need to make some type of change. I don't know what it is. I don't know what I don't know, but I'm going to at least reach out. And that is a huge step to at least be willing to ask for help, right?
Yeah.
Because
Now let's touch on this a little bit.
Yeah.
We're both lucky that we like to travel, and we have spouses that like to travel too. Because my spouse, I mean, I love traveling, and man, she's taking me places where I said I thought I would never be. But I've noticed, I was in Amsterdam. They said they have a disabled bathroom, but you have to go way downstairs in this Amsterdam airport, way downstairs, and then I'm thinking like, well, if you're blind, okay, you can do that. But if you're in a wheelchair, how can they call it a accessible bathroom if it has if you're going there? Yeah. And so I'm thinking like everybody, and I looked at the website, they talked about how inclusive it was, and I'm thinking like, I'm not sure if they're only looking at it from an able-bodied personality, saying that
they're not.
we think we're accessible, but they're not looking at it from a real disabled person's point of view. And so I find that to me, I saw the concept that they hide people with disability or blindness. They hide those people in other countries. And I think our country is more visible with blindness.
That's an interesting statement. I don't know, because I've never lived anywhere else, and it's hard to know. When I just did a 2-week trip to France, and I was in Paris for a week. We walked past the Blind Institute school that was there right in Paris. They have a Helen Keller garden. We did see one blind person with a seeing eye dog.
Yeah.
But no, there was not a huge population that was out and about.
But I
And
can
it's-
tell you, my son, when I flew to Moscow about 6 times before I, get my wife over here. And whenever I would get out the airplane, the airline people would always say, "Who's with you?" And I said, "I'm with myself."
right,
Right.
Now, in America, I didn't get those kind of questions, but when I went in parts of Europe, that was
Yeah.
always a question like, "Who's with you?"
right,
And I'm thinking like, "Who's supposed to be with me?"
It's your
And
keeper.
so it's just a
Mm.
concept. I think that yes, they want to be inclusive, but that only goes so far if you don't meet many blind people just encountering the world by themselves without some holding under somebody's arm.
without being on somebody else's arm. Exactly.
Right.
And if the
Right.
expectation is that, well, you obviously can't be independent. So yeah, where's your support? Right.
Yeah.
That's the way it is here as well.
And that's, you're in the Philippines?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hmm.
So I'm curious, Joe, because I was starting to look at your content, guys. What is the blind community like where you are?
Yeah, I most of the time when you see blind people, they're with relatives because there's really no support for them here.
Okay.
They just like everything else. I mean, a third world country is a third world country. They don't have government gives them support gives everybody support for stuff, but it's minimal.
Right.
And as far as special groups and special needs, it just isn't there.
I've talked to some folks in other cultures, and they talk about the stigma associated with disability. That
Yeah.
the families don't want to acknowledge it. If you're disabled, you don't let anybody know about it because of the culture that they grew up in.
Yeah,
That's right.
that goes that way here for almost everything. If you're a drunk, they don't want nobody to know that you're a drunk. If you're, if you have a mental deficiency or whatever, they don't talk about it.
Right.
They'll deal with them very quietly.
Well, and so I find it interesting, Al, you and Johnnie J, and you probably remember back in the day, folks with disabilities, we would be institutionalized.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I find it really wild and crazy to find stories where it's still happening in 2024.
Yeah, it's still a thing. People do sometimes get their children taken away from them simply because of their blindness. Not to do, especially with the fact that maybe they may or may not be unfit or things like this, but simply because of the whole blindness thing.
Right. Yeah, we've definitely heard those stories, but I'm thinking the fact that, oh, your child has some challenges.
Yeah.
I think we're recommending you put your child in an institution because that's
Mrs.
better
okay,
for you than the strain this child will put on your household.
Exactly right.
wait,
Because
Mrs. Chambers, 10 years old, she walked into our house. She was the head of the teachers board, and all the teachers were afraid of her because she had the power to fire and hire. So she walks in my house. It was the summer I was having my operations, and she told my mother, "You should put Johnny in a home." And my mother turned around to her and said, "Johnny is in a home, and you can see your way out."
right.
Right.
House.
That's
So,
right.
but how many parents will stand up like that? Because I've known parents that didn't stand up, put their child in these Colorado Springs for the blind, and that child resented that parent because of whatever went on at those schools.
My
That's right.
Go ahead, Al. I've got another story to share.
Go.
I have a friend in Brighton. She was born in the late 60s.
Mm.
She was premature and put on too much oxygen, so she
Right.
was blinded by medical procedure. Her mother fought for her to go to public schools, and she was told by the teachers, "You sit down." They took her white cane away from her when she went
Oh
in.
man.
Said, this is too dangerous. The other kids are going to take it from you. You can't have it. You sit down, sit still. I don't want you here. And this is what she grew up with in the late
Yeah.
70s, 80s.
Yeah.
Wow.
One of these, the other one, Al, is you talked about 70% unemployment. I'm amazed at the number of blind individuals that I meet in the community that are working for the blind community, right? It's, hey, I've created a business where I'm selling products from one blind person to another blind person,
Which is fine. I mean, it is what it is, but
it is what it is, but we're like this self-fulfilling little niche that says, we have very limited income to begin with. And what we're supposed to do is help support each other by products and whatever, or services, right? There's so many gentlemen that are AT specialists. Why? Because I had to learn it. Oh, now I have a skill. I'm going to sell it, right?
that's right. That's
Yeah.
right.
And I found, and I accidentally was in this meeting with a bunch of other nonprofits, and this nonprofit, they work with veterans. They were trying to get blind people high-paying jobs, move into the Colorado Springs part of the state, but the DVR blocked it because they didn't want that competition.
Jay.
And I couldn't believe it. I said, high-paying jobs, why block that? You guys could be a team. You say that you want to put blind people to work. They say they want to put it to work. Team, but no.
Right. Yeah.
Somehow they were taken from, or they had a fear that they would be taken from them if they had this other option.
Right.
So
If the blind community, if a huge group of blind people left Denver and went to Colorado Springs, now these people that are working in the blind community in Denver won't have jobs. So, I'm going to have to relocate or do something else.
Yeah. And it's like, come on, let's stop trying to pull back each other back down in the barrel. Let's try to time out.
I think there is an advantage with the community that we live in being comparatively small, as we can really start working together. Like there's an AI group.
I just heard
let's
about that.
see,
Yeah.
what is that AI tech group that we belong to? That Sean Keen, you remember him? I don't have the name of the AI
I just
group.
joined it,
I
and
can't
I'm
think of
just
it.
now getting familiar with it. But it's an AI for blind people, and I love it, man, because I'm using AI
I think it's
quite a
AI
bit.
for the blind. I think it's just called
Yeah.
AI for the blind, if I'm not
On Facebook.
mistaken.
Is it on Facebook, Al?
Yeah,
Yes.
it's on Facebook.
It's AI for the blind. I'm there too.
Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah. So, this is a really good tool, I would think, because the blind, we're going to help each other out regardless, because we don't have a choice but except for to look after our own people. So I bring up Sean because he started this hashtag 70 gig. So if you're doing a AI related project, hashtag 70, blah, 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 and share it with his group, well, I would submit if we started doing any sort of work at all, period, hashtag 70 that thing. People start looking, hey, what is this hashtag 70?
Right.
Well, this started, it's not our idea, it's this guy's idea over here. And but we're going to take this, we're going to run with it as a blind community.
As a blind community.
We got to do this.
And we have the alphabet soup of the NFB and the ACB, and that again, they all have their own agendas and what they're promoting and what they want to do, and how they think it needs to be done. And it's always been an interesting journey as an outsider, as somebody who had vision, who was losing it. I'd go to a camp for the blind individuals, and I would be partially sighted. So lo and behold, the blind leading the blind. I'm helping people get to the cafeteria. We're walking around, we're doing things, right? And it's like I wasn't welcome in the blind community, but I wasn't welcome in the sighted community because I couldn't keep up.
See, and that's just rough because
Right.
I've worked for organizations, and I know what it's like to go in there and they're like, well, how can you teach me to do anything? Sure, you can teach me the blind way, as it were, of doing X, Y, Z, but how can you relate? Because you've always been blind,
Right.
So it's like, well, I can't relate. So I level with them. No, I can't relate. I don't know what you're going through, but I can identify with, what you feel like. And I can put you in touch with other folks that are partially sighted like yourself.
Right.
And, so that's what I do is, be a door, if
Right.
nothing else, be a door.
Absolutely.
You
And
know,
and by no means, dude, again, meeting my friends that are blind since birth, live their whole life, different experience than I have been through
Yeah.
as a degenerative vision. It is a different path, but the challenges are the same as we struggle through life. They asked me, I worked in corporate America for 30 plus years. Well, how did you get your job? I wasn't blind when I got the job.
that's
I
right.
had the diagnosis, but I could see to do the job.
Yep.
And I got accommodations to keep doing the job up until a point when it was like, this is getting too hard.
Yep.
No matter what accommodations you give me, the technology that I know exists will not function with the applications and tools and the job requirements that you have me doing. And I took an early retirement opportunity and got out.
Yeah.
It'd be neat if the deafblind community, like the one that
It's
I
even
belong to,
harder. Oh,
yeah, that's even harder because they just don't have the type of support that you're providing with your peer-to-peer group.
right.
Man,
It
in
is.
fact,
Actually, there
We
is some.
we have some deafblind folks in our community that are in our peer-to-peer support group. The
wow.
challenge is they are using cochlear implants. They're using hearing aids.
Yep.
They're operating in a hearing world.
That's right.
And that's as we were meeting with Cindy with the deafblind
Action team.
the deafblind action team here in Colorado, and are talking to her and really thinking about how isolating it is to become 75 years of age and having to wear hearing aids, and you've got macular degeneration, and realize that the independence, the control in your life is disappearing, and you're becoming dependent on everyone else around you to provide you information. And it's how depressing that can be, and how that leads to a quality of life issue. It's like, how do you transition to learn touch sign language and braille at a point in your life when you don't want to learn anything?
Like that, you dump inflation on top of everything,
Yeah.
things being 30-40% more expensive, 70% in some cases more expensive than things were just 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Finding the place that finding yourself in a place where you're looking for a place to live, and
Right.
the income that you have is outstripped by just even a place where there's rent, unless you want to get into one of these subsidized living kind of, yeah. And then there's all kinds of restrictions with that too.
Bureaucracy involved with all of that. Exactly.
And it is just wow.
And it's kind of interesting, because we're figuring out. I mean, there's going to be us who will figure it out, but there's going to be a lot of people who haven't figured out it, or either have to stay with the parents or something to that effect, assisted living or whatever.
The hope that you've had children in your life so that the generation behind you can help.
Oh, yeah.
The number of folks that we meet in our community that reach out to us and go, I need help. And I said, well, do you have friends and family? He says, I have no one. It's just, my brothers and sisters are gone. My parents are gone. Never got married. No kids. Like, when it's me, I'm out. And it's, yes, I live in a community apartment, but there are a bunch of other old people too. They're not willing to help me. So it is challenging. How do we as a society deal with our elder?
Now tell us the peer-to-peer, how do people get insurance? Because I hear it's Tuesday and it's Wednesday. So
the best way to, so how do you reach us? How do you contact us? All that kind of fun. Okay. The easiest way to reach us, send us an email. You don't look blind @gmail.com. So YOUDONTBLIN LOOKBLIND. You Don't Look Blind, all small letters, no spaces, no punctuation, at gmail.com.
Yes, and then you get them connected. You
At
check
that
the
point,
emails every day.
we send you emails, and this is the challenge of technology, right? If you're technology impaired, you're not getting emails, then it's hard to connect to other things. But in our emails, we send you links to our Zoom, a Zoom invitation to join our virtual meetings that we host on the third Tuesday. And we
Mhm.
also send you information about our in-person meetings that we host on the second weekend of the month. This month will be on Saturday the 8th,
Ninth.
right? Saturday the 9th.
The
This
9th?
Saturday, November 9th at 10 a.m. at the Natural Grocers demonstration kitchen located at Alameda and South Broadway.
Oh, okay.
Oh, wow.
And so we're there from 10 to 12. And so we do their 2-hour in person, and I think most of the time, we'll have anywhere from a dozen to 24 folks around that table. And then when we walk away from there, somebody will probably say, let's go to lunch. And so that's where we'll probably end up.
Or someone's mom brought in these fantastic cookies.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was my mom. She's
Oh,
again,
okay.
the Pearl. She's the one who took me to a meeting 45 years ago, and she's been involved in our community ever since.
She used to write the newsletter.
And yeah, she used to write monthly newsletters for our community that would go out to 3 or 4 states, Colorado, Wyoming, and we had people in Nebraska and New Mexico
Yeah.
that we were reaching out to. And
And
so
before I let you go, I want to know, okay, so how we found out about you by, I can say accident, or it was just something that was meant to be. We were out in the park walking around, and I would say there's a bunch of people walking this and music, and so we went towards the tent, and we connected with you when you did your, I think it's a once a year fundraiser.
So
I don't
this
know if
was this was the Foundation Fighting Blindness doing their annual vision walk the weekend before October 15th.
Yeah.
So White Cane Day. So they do this annual, I think it was their 19th annual vision walk they've been doing. And they've raised over $150,000 this year.
Yeah.
Just at our one event here in Denver. And so that you happen to be there during the walk that Saturday morning. Our group, You Don't Look Blind, our peer-to-peer community, was at a booth of all their vendors. And so Johnnie J found us there. And it was again, happenstance. There
is no coincidence.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah.
Depends on your philosophy. There is no coincidence.
Right.
It was kismet. It was fate. But again, all of a sudden, our community is now expanded. And so, yes, you can reach out to us. We will help provide you the resources that you want. Ask us questions. We help put white canes in people's hands. I love sharing my white canes. I've got over a dozen different canes, a dozen different tips from different manufacturers, because just like cars, there are canes in different models, shapes, and sizes, and they all have their purpose. And not one size fits all when it comes to with vision problems. And so you don't know what you don't know when it comes to a white cane.
I didn't even know there was that many types of cane tips. And my wife said, oh, you should get this kind of cane and this kind of cane. And I said, I don't even remember. It was like it was so many to pick from.
They didn't even have all this stuff when we were kids, man. They didn't have all the different cane tips, different canes and all this stuff. You Don't Look Blind, all one word, at gmail.com. Just sent you an email. Just sent you also an email, or what do you call that? Little questionnaire on your Facebook group. You Don't Look Blind.
So facebook.com/group/You Don't Look Blind.
Yeah, there we go. Thank you. I just sent a request there.
And and knowing about you are now being added to our resource list that we share with our community.
That is awesome. That is awesome. Folks in the Intervision FM universe, thank you for joining us tonight. And don't forget, if you haven't gotten out to vote, it's a little late.
Jeez.
Johnny
Yeah.
J in House District number 5. How are you doing?
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. I just looked over like they were showing us like the list of people and how much money they raised, like 16,000, 35,000. I'm saying, I said, what did you get? It's like it's just interesting because last year or 2 years ago I tried to raise money and I did so much money, and then
That's right.
this year I said, you know what? Okay, if I get in, I do it, but I'm going to just do it organically.
Just gonna
And
have
so
fun, roll with it, see what
have fun with
happens.
this, go with it.
Results to come, hopefully pretty soon. In fact, there might be election results as soon as Wednesday. Sometimes I hear things, and yeah, we might just see.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. If I
Colorado
get there,
Secretary of State, we're looking forward to seeing how things look tomorrow at their website.
Yeah, that's
So,
gonna be
but it's been a
interesting.
fun journey, and I met a lot of good people. I love meeting people. So we did the Cinco de Mayo thing, and
Yeah.
and the gay pride thing. We were out there, and the guy, this other guy I was with, he's running for a Senate position, and we just good corroboration and just talking to people. I love being out there amongst the people and asking questions and just sort of like sharpening the tools of the mind. So if you ever get a chance, everybody has a community. I'm surprised that the National Federation has to put up people to go run for office and stuff like that. It's just, they seem to be,
I think it's interesting because there is the clause within their code book or their little whatever that they can't have political. I don't know. It is interesting to me.
These communities, they want to be their advocates, right? The people that help decide policy behind the politicians.
Yeah.
And I think there's this, again, a whole stigma in the disability as we're saying goodbye here of Roosevelt, Franklin Roosevelt, with his wheelchair. If there was television, he wouldn't have gotten elected, is the way it was said, right? That's what Hollywood is teaching us, that, well, we don't want to see the disabled people. We, keep them hidden, out of sight, out of mind. And so it's easier to not be a person with a disability out there being an active politician when you can have an actual normal bodied, normal, neurotypical, whatever, politician who looks young, vibrant, and thinking, right? All those things. I'm dependable, whatever.
One really fun question that we want to end on. You were talking about blind camps a little earlier.
Yeah.
A little blast from the past. Glacier View. You ever go there?
That sounds really, really familiar to me. Yes.
Vegetarian food.
Yes.
Ah,
Latter-day
boy.
Saints. Yeah.
Seventh-day Adventists. I think.
Yep. Seventh-day Adventists. Yep.
Yeah. That was some good times, boy. First time I ever tried vegetarian hot dogs.
Yes.
Yeah, I couldn't believe how much there was, like how much vegetarian ways you could make foods and stuff like that until I went there, and it was pretty interesting. It was definitely pretty interesting.
Yeah,
so,
that was, I think the I think the early 80s. I think I did a summer camp at Glacier View, if not 2 years. But
if you ever saw the movie Mass with Cher,
yes,
I was at that camp when Rocky was there, and it was one thing about Rocky. He had a sense of humor because I kept seeing this guy with red hair, big red hair from the back, and all of a sudden I was sitting at this wall, and he says, "Move over." With this high voice, like a Michael Jackson. And I'm looking to my right, left, nobody's there. And then I looked up and it was like that camera like zoomed in and it just freaked me out. I said, because I'd never seen him on the front until he did this. And he knew that he was gonna
freak you out.
Freak me out. But but it was like he was an interesting guy. So it was nice that they put together this movie and it was kind of cool. But that mess, some of it was kind of Hollywood because they would never take the horses down on the beach. You're never going to see the horses on the beach. But it was just interesting that the movie showed like a lot of, and that camp was like paradise. People didn't want to leave because
No.
Norm knew how to make it inclusive. And
Yes.
I had never been to a pool party, and I thought they said party, so I put on my silk black shirt,
Oh,
shiny
no,
shoes, and I'm
bro.
thinking like, I'm going to a party. And I said, no,
It's
this
a
is a
pool
pool party.
What, we're gonna play pool? No, we're swimming pool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like, so
Yeah.
my naive self, I learned quite a bit just being there, but it was, you know, you don't know until you do know.
Yes. And that was the interesting part of going to the camp, right? Specifically in a community, you're surrounded by a whole bunch of folks that are somewhere on the low vision blind spectrum, right?
Right.
Because vision loss is a spectrum. And you're there, you're in this community, and you have a few volunteers, and they expect you to move around, take care of yourself, get yourself dressed. You know, we're not being waited on hand and foot. We're not being stuffed in the corner says, sit still, we're going to go serve you, right? It's like
Yeah.
just because I really like that from the NFB. Blindness does not define you, and
That's
the
right.
only thing holding you back is yourself.
That's right.
Oh,
That's
yes.
right.
So
All right.
treat us like people, and lo and behold, I just got approached today at the health club. Guy says, "Hey, I just need to let you know I'm really impressed with the way that you get around the swimming pool and the hot tub and the locker room here. You know, have you always been blind?"
Yeah.
It's just like, you know, we all deal with something, and you know, I'm glad I impressed you, but it's not that impressive. Right?
Oh yeah, definitely. Well, Robert Lee, we loved having you on the show. People leave your comments below, and I'll go back because I'm not that good at reading the comments right now, but I'll go back and answer those answers. And if we don't hear from us, contact us info@intervisionrecords.org, info@intervisionrecords.org. Otherwise, I'll look for your comments and I'll try to respond. We got five platforms. I got to go through those all, and I'll find the comments and respond. But you have the Gmail account, which Alan, give it out again.
Looks
You
like
don't-
you don't look blind at gmail.com.
No?
Thanks, Alan.
All right. And so
Thank you so much. I truly enjoyed being here. Thank you for
You
having me.
rock. You guys rock. Thank you.
Oh yeah, definitely. See you guys later.
God bless.
All right.